I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jesse. We're Cannabis School.
Having cannabis-infused conversations
With everyday people,
cannabis companies,
celebrities,
and your mom.
welcome to the sesh.
Like cannabis experience with this chat conversation.
Oh, dude, because I was just pondering. I was looking outside at night sky, and all of a sudden, this just came to me.
What started it?
So I'm always fascinated with the sun. And lately, we've seen blackouts across the world.
Yeah, electrical blackouts.
And people want to blame, like, was it hacked, or were they cyber attacked? And they've ruled that out. And they're like, is the grid bad? Well, all grids are bad.
We got really shitty grids here.
Yeah, all over the planet, right? And it's like, okay, well, what could have been that one? And I started thinking about the Carrington Event in 1859. And when that happened, I was just like, because we have had nothing but UFO like crazy amounts of UFO sightings. And it hasn't been like a long time.
More recently.
Oh, yeah. For the last few years, it's been getting stronger and stronger. We had the New Jersey ones, and then we had the California ones, and they haven't stopped. They haven't stopped at all. So my pondering was, what if these solar flares, or what's called coronal mass ejections, when they go out into space, and if they come close, they really compress our magnetosphere, and they press it down to where the auroras happen. In 2023, we saw auroras all the way down to Puerto Rico.
Well, you could see it.
Texas.
Way more than you can normally see it. You didn't have to be only in that top area. Yeah.
Right. Because that's where, like, the Norse people saw, like, that made sense. Like, because of the auroras, it's the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that was
makes
a very interesting
lot of
conversation.
sense.
I was like, okay. Because even when it was like the warping and the bending of it creates different shapes and light patterns in the sky and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Then you're seeing beings, you're seeing things like you normally wouldn't see. Well, when that coronal mass ejection happened in 1859, what happened during that time? I was like, okay, but were there UFO sightings before, during, or after? And it was great to be able to kind of dig through some deep information. Not a whole lot. It went through some of them. Like, there's ones in medieval or early modern records, like all the way back to like 1561 in Nuremberg. There's a celestial phenomenon where people saw these cylinders and discs battling above the sky, right?
I just figured that was like the original Nürburgring. And so,
Yeah, where they fought, they just go, oh, that's where.
You just drive around.
They just drove around.
Yeah, spaceship racing.
But they really didn't have anything before that. I mean, other than what they would see randomly. Well, during it, nothing. But the crazy thing was the correlation of a lot more were happening after, years after. Airships, discs, orbs, stuff like that. A lot of the same stuff that we're seeing right now.
Looked like it was around like the 1890s was when, like, to the early 1900s, it just really, really spiked.
Yeah.
So 30-ish years, 30, 40 years after the Carrington Event.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been seeing, they've had a lot of sightings and things like that all over, but nothing like this. To the point where it starts really messing with reality. And that's where the idea came from. What if solar flares bend our magnetosphere to the point where it actually can open up dimensions? Because I don't believe that they're interstellar. I believe that if there's anything out there, it's interdimensional, because then it can travel through that. But when this last big solar flare came, what if by that one they were able to cross over, either one by knowing that they can do it, or it just happens and they are just traveling from one dimension to the next and they have no idea. And so if the dimension is all the same, right, like a multiverse type thing, where there's different replications of us throughout time,
simultaneously, yeah,
right, all existing at once. What if that barrier, it's the same place but just different? So could these UAPs, UFOs just be us, just more advanced in a different dimension?
When you say us, you mean as in like humans?
Yeah.
Okay, not as in you and I, because that
I don't fly.
No. That I was like that when you said us. That's what I was wondering. I was like, oh shit, like us. But I'm like, no, that would be future then, or different us, because if multiverse theory is there's still just the singular self.
Yes.
Not like a million self. I mean, there is, because there's a million different versions simultaneously happening, but like this perceived self that you are in at this moment that we are perceiving.
That's like time travel, like when they talk about time travel going back in time, and the theory is same matter can't occupy the same space. So same version of that. And that's theory. I mean, we don't know. But, movies love to play around with it, right? The Avengers.
Because it's very interesting ideas and theories, and it goes, oh, what if? Like,
yeah. Like you're able to cross that barrier. But that's where I kind of see, like, when you think back to like even gods, and mainly like Gobekli Tepe, Sumerian, when the Sumerians wrote about the Anunnaki and stuff like that. What if it was just an instant where these big, massive dimensional shifts happen, and then they leave because another dimensional shift happens? Almost like, in the Avengers when he snapped his fingers and people disappear, and then when they undid it, they all reappear. It's like they went to a different dimension and existed there for 5 years. What if that's what's happened? Because the strange anomalies that have been happening lately are crazy.
What's some of the weirdest things you've seen?
Cryptids. Cryptids are not proven to animals at the time. They're hypothesized that they could exist. Some of them will be like, theories or just straight up like the chupacabra. I think that's stupid. I remember there was...
So they've found now animals that exist that they thought didn't?
No. Videos that are really hard to explain. One of them being in the Midwest where there was a guy in his backyard, freaked the fuck out, and he's got his camera up on his phone and a flashlight, and the branches of these trees, dude, these branches are breaking off are this thick, just snap tossed.
Huh.
And they're like, oh, maybe it was a monkey that escaped the zoo. How many who are these monkeys like fucking escaping from Alcatraz? Yeah. All right, stand over there with the guard. I'm over here. I'm digging. Right? It's
like Alcatraz nuclear power plant. Where
the fuck I know,
did
right?
They get those mad like
crazy monkeys.
Yeah,
but those types of things where cryptids like Bigfoot and stuff like that, like people talk about them. Even I've never seen it. I have a hard time believing it unless I've met people that have seen it. I saw something, but I was really drunk and high, so I don't know if I really saw something in the Midwest when I was in the Navy. But no, it just, I'm thinking like even those cryptids, like what if they're not here from this reality?
What if it's like, okay, so a pathway or an area in between a thinning almost of a portal, or like the dimensional space between, almost like a time-space tear that would allow for beings or entities to pass between dimension just by walking through there. It was like that. What was it? You were talking about some captain of a guard or something who was awake, like asleep in Spain.
Yeah,
went to sleep.
So it was the Philippines. So he's from the Philippines, and it was like, was it 1500s or something like that? 1600s. And he leans up against this castle wall. He was a guard at a Filipino castle. And then he closed his eyes. And when he opened his eyes, he was in Mexico. And recently the president had been assassinated. And so they were like, oh, well, this guy clearly doesn't belong here. So then in like 100 days, there was a Filipino ship that came over there, and the Mexican, Bastille that was keeping him there, they're like, oh yeah, that guy actually sounds like a guy we're looking for. So it was really crazy. So these like portals, or I just see it like we don't understand enough about our world. We tend to like the Neil deGrasse Tyson's, who's really good at one thing, and then all of a sudden says, oh yeah, that's not possible. Was that your place of no, but I do have a PhD.
Yeah, I definitely don't know any medical professional with a 3-letter degree who has that type of mindset at all.
Or worse, if they get like that degree in education. And if you do, great, good for you. But when you start asking people to call you doctor, you can fuck right off. Because that's just stupid. But anyways, yeah, dude, the idea I started thinking, dude, is like light and frequency.
Oh, yeah,
and if they can, what if another alternative of humans, because it would make more sense other than looking different. But why can't it? I mean, there would be it would just be different.
Well, it's like
in different decisions at different times, they could make a decision going. I mean, that breaks your mind just thinking about it. But if they were able to cross over knowingly, that would be crazy. It's like have you seen the scientists have been, there's a group of scientists that they hypothesize they can actually create a warp bubble around like a vessel. As long as it doesn't need propellant, and they actually can bend space-time around them. Yeah. Weird.
No, I've not seen that.
Yeah, it's a warp bubble. Look up warp bubble. We can even look it up on chat. But
hang on, let's pull this up right now because we'll just throw it in there. A warp bubble?
Tell me about the hypothesized.
Scientists found a way to create an actual warp bubble. When is this one? 3 years ago.
Yep.
So, let's see here.
Hello, wonderful person, and rejoice, Star Trek fans. The warp drive might be possible after all. Today we're discussing a really intriguing and potentially groundbreaking study from a very famous NASA scientist who potentially and somewhat accidentally discovered what seems to be a warp bubble. That bubble you see formed around this hypothetical spaceship traveling across the galaxy.
Oh, hypothetical
has allowed it
spaceship.
to travel way faster than the speed of light. With this particular type of an engine and this type of a device, sometimes referred to as the Alcubierre drive. The hypothetical way for us to travel faster than the speed of light by essentially warping the space-time around the craft and allowing the craft to travel at normal speed inside the bubble, with the bubble itself then soaring.
It's like a duck going through water.
Yeah, so this is just a theory. Sorry, I thought you were saying there was an actual...
No.
Nice. Yeah.
No, they hypothesize, but they believe they can be able to do that. So, but
I thought it was actually created, and I was like, what the fuck? Because I've heard of like warp bubbles and go...
Well, and that's the thing too, and this is where I think it's a red herring when we go to like government stuff. So recently they had a federal representative of the government talking about, I think it's for Department of Energy, but they were talking about the capabilities that we already have right now.
Which is probably way more than what we perceive at this moment.
Well, and you got to think about it too. People are like, oh yeah, Russia or China. Yep, they are strong countries, but they also understand that the U.S. dumped the most money and the most resources into developing weapons and systems to
develop lots of weapons.
And there's a reason why they are still the biggest fighting force in the world. Like you're even with lower numbers. It doesn't compare. Yeah, we'll receive casualties, but we'll win by attrition.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, that's crazy, right? But what if like this whole thing of like where these, I mean, you can call them like what the Sumerians did. Like I hypothesize about the purses that you see on the pillars of Gobekli Tepe. Yeah. You see them in Egypt. You see them in South America.
I was like, I swear they're in Egypt as well.
Yeah, they're all over. They're on Easter Island, on the back of the Moai.
Oh,
you know what's really tragic about the Moai? A bunch of them were burned. So they're not like just straight. They're just, I forgot what kind of rocket, but it did burn. But there was a fire that happened a few years over there, and it came down and it burned a bunch of them.
Did that just leave scarring, or like are they?
Some of them just completely which is weird because there's not a lot of trees over there. So, and then you get the guys who are like the hardcore, like Bright Insight guy, Jimmy Corsetti. I mean, he's like, oh yeah, they burned it on purpose. Like, maybe, I don't know. It's like Gobekli Tepe where they were planting the trees and stuff like that. Like they're just trying to turn it into a tourist trap. Like that's why they don't want to really dig anymore.
Yep.
But when you see those things like I love Graham Hancock's interpretation of it. He thought of them as these sages, these people who brought life back to this planet of being wiped out. And so my theory is like, what if all these aliens are coming around because, well, or whatever it is, not even aliens, just interdimensional beings, right? I sound like Alex Jones there. The interdimensional beings are coming over here to rape your kids, right? It's just like it's the
okay, RFK.
No. Alex Jones, if you hear him.
That would be a very RFK thing to say.
I know.
And the aliens are coming over here, raping our children.
I'm giving up
and not making
autism.
fun of it. It just would be so hard to hear. It makes me feel like I'm trying to talk while I'm also on a roller coaster, only going down.
That roller coaster is also being like shaken aggressively,
sure.
so you're like, I don't know what's going on the inside, but
No, but what if they're coming over to check to see if there is another cataclysm where they have to help, because it's and that's where I think it's more interdimensional or even Earth-based, because they talk about USOs underneath the water, inner Earth stuff, like all that. Like, it's all probable.
Theories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's so many civilizations that talked about where people came from underground.
Or going back into the underground.
Yeah. Like that book at Adarpa. Like the hardest thing about that book, people can't figure out if it's fiction or fact. And that's why it's in like its 18th, 19th edition. And people have died looking for this cave in Kentucky that he talks about in that book. So it's, and you don't know, Ed Adarpa is it's like one of the oldest science fiction novels out there.
Aphrodite written backwards.
Mm-hmm. And it's a crazy book. It's a real crazy book. But I was thinking, like, what if they came here to kind of almost be like, just kind of like big brothers, like, hey, you guys okay?
Yeah.
And because of the flares, and we're in a solar cycle 25 right now, and it's supposed to keep going for a while, and we're getting hit by solar flare after solar flare. So I thought about blackouts, but then I didn't I'm only thinking of like the stuff from like Suspicious Observers, like Ben Davis, and he's like, we're all dying only if you live in these areas, which Utah's one of those areas.
Oh yeah.
But even then I'm just like, that's what I went to. But
yeah, I read it, and it has like the Adam and Eve theory, and
yeah, I put it all into there, like a story.
I was like, oh, that's a very interesting idea. The one that was really interesting to me was the storage data, and that potentially it would be stored in tones.
Yeah.
And once you got that correct vibrational tone, it could release the frequency with the data. And I was like, that book that I lent you years ago on Atlantis, it goes into tones and frequencies and like the ability to levitate or move things, or even like maybe alter the material or the matter itself with like different tones and vibrations and that. And I was like, oh, so couldn't that be the same thing, that you could store or transmute materials or whatever through vibrational things? But then as well, yesterday when we were talking, it was like, oh, well, sound is vibrations, and lights are like also vibrations and frequencies. So sound and light could like actually be the same thing. So potentially you could transfer data through the light just the same as you
fiber optic
through the sound.
Yeah, fiber optic, and that's where I was thinking.
If sound could also transfer that, that's also like, that's what radio waves are, and that is just a frequency and a vibration.
Well, and then we start thinking about levitation with vibrations and sound, right? Where the theories of building the pyramids or any of the megaliths or
how they were
shaping
put together,
was because the precision on those. And to
the
say that they're made with
size.
copper tools and fucking and stone hammers, come on.
a few thousand years ago.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because they're really good masons.
And if you believe that, marijuana grows inside my asshole.
Gross. I wouldn't smoke it. But
They might.
No, I even, it's like, I built out a hypothetical with it. I'll read it off and then we'll play around with it, right? So the setting is Earth in 2028, and we hit solar maximum, and the CMEs are pretty frequent. And it said like second day after a CME happens, so day 2, the warning, a massive sunspot cluster. It's like facing Earth. So if you see them, you see like they'll do a different shade of the sun, and it'll be really dark. And when those little dark spots, those can send off coronal mass ejections. So that's what they look for.
Yeah.
And in this one, it says like it's a massive X49.8 class solar flare. So we got hit with like a 10 and an 11 or something like that.
Yeah,
Maybe a little stronger.
recently, yeah.
And that's where the auroras come. You imagine this is an 8 at 49.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
So it said like within 8 minutes of it hitting, it would disrupt satellites, GPS, low Earth orbit objects, some satellites are lost. So it's like
within like 24 hours. Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, this is in 8 minutes from the solar flare
the CME.
hitting there, and then in 17 hours, that's just the first CME, and then we get hit with another one. And that one slams into Earth, and our ionosphere is peeled back. I like that it says it's peeled back. The magnetosphere is dented so deep, auroras appear at the equator, blood red and pulsing. So that was one of the things that they talked about during
the lights.
Yeah, in the Carrington event, the people were like, the skies were red and throbbed, like whoa, whoa.
See, I would think that most people, just because of history and like religious stuff, I would think most people would think it would be like a god or an entity type
and they
of
did
thing,
during that time. Now it's kind of funny because, when
even then, think about it now. Do you think if we had a lot of people in that actually happen, do you think they would think it was God?
I don't know.
I know we have
not now because look at it. You get to see all of these UFO sightings. No, I'm saying
I wouldn't think it was God.
Well, no, not now because it's not. I'm not an indigenous person who is very limited on his views of the world in that one area.
You have a more broader understanding.
All of us do. Because of the Internet of Things, we are able to be more connected and we're more discerning. So, because if this would have happened, like the mass sightings that happen now, happened in the late 90s, totally different.
Oh, yeah.
People would be like, it's happening, and there would have been a lot different. But because we have a constant connection and constant
Y2K.
Oh yeah, exactly. But it was a big fear.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right. The bank software won't. It'll reset. It'll take everything to zero. But
when I sat there and I was like, God, how old was I then? I don't know, junior high. It made a lot of sense. I was like, oh shit, yeah, I have no idea if there's our design.
Dude, you know what I was doing?
Were you smoking weed?
I was smoking weed and drinking beer with my friends. We were celebrating the Navy, and I'm like,
"Oh yeah,
hey, everything shuts off in 5 seconds," and then all of a sudden we go, "Dad!" Fucking party went on, dude. It's so dumb. I didn't believe that shit. I was like, "This fucking what?" Yeah. Oh, because you guys made a clerical error?
I was like, I mean, if it happens, I guess that happens. What do you do at that point? It just resets all the computers.
Now, the thing, too, that also went on is a feeling of the end times. Now, in biblical, if you wanted to read it verbatim, I think it's funny. A lot of people look at biblical text and you have to interpret it based upon the time that was interpreted. You're reading a 1600s or 1400s novel, pretty much, at this point, from an interpretation of that time, from Greek to English at that time. Yeah. But it's kind of funny because when they talk about the skies and all this other stuff, so people during the Carrington event thought it was the end of the world because of the sky. Well, because they
had read it in the past. And it was like,
but think about it. How terrifying would that be? You go outside and the sky is pulsing and it's red.
Do you guys know of any books that are not religious texts that talk about other events in the past like that, aside from the Carrington event? Maybe that are people experiencing that type of thing. That,
not really.
Well, I don't know of any. That's why I wondered if, maybe anyone else does, because there might be stories and books of people writing of, that type of phenomenon that isn't from a religious text.
Well, the oldest thing that you can be able to find on those possible coronal mass ejections is looking at the petroglyphs. Petroglyphs, so the swirls. They
have the same symbols that show when they get those types of
auroras and things like that. Because the magneto, it's when it's bent down to so low
shrunk and it's
that we can
thin.
see it.
Yeah,
because the skies, and I don't want to go into that one, but it would be darkness all the time. If we didn't have our atmosphere, it would just be darkness we were looking at.
Weird.
But all the time, daytime, nighttime, you just feel darkness because that's all you're seeing is the sun and the dark background. But it's kind of interesting to think about what if all of that was actually happening, and that's why we're seeing more of these things. But then on the other side, it's well, maybe we've been reset so many times that they come over because they've had to do this more than once.
Do you guys believe in aliens? What are your guys' thoughts on that? I think that's really, those, especially the paintings, the messengers, the ones with the purses or the bags,
That's crazy.
Not-
the watches and stuff like that.
Not every single one of those is the same time around the globe. So it's like,
and they're not connected. At least that's what they say. They weren't connected, but maybe it was
not
a global.
through anything that we know at this time. There's not any like global connection that we know as far that it's like, hey, this explains all of these pyramids here. This explains all of these images of the same style of things in totally different regions around the entire world. Going, how in the hell is this same thing here from a million different times? Like it just doesn't make sense on a lot of ways unless someone is experiencing the exact same thing, or unless there's some other way that they've collected or gathered that data, or, but even then it would have to be shared.
It's around about the same time, too, where they start to be able to theorize that they were seeing these things, and that's why they were shown on these walls.
Do you think it could have been more in Pangea time? Because I was going to say you'd have to have almost more of a global community.
No, Pangea is way too far back. I think
if there's a lot of resets, do we know?
That's exactly. I mean, we don't have any understanding of because our understanding is pretty rudimentary. Like when you take carbon-14 dating, like it's really good up to a certain period of time.
We know, and as far as our understanding,
but they have developed a new type of carbon dating that can actually go back even further, and it's very, very accurate. But it's just based on the material you find.
Well, and our understanding of science at this moment.
Well, exactly, and
because it was even like when we talked about space travel, and it was like, well, this with this fuel can't really get us there or do this, and it was like, oh, you can only travel at light speed because of this, and I was like, well, but maybe that's because our understanding of things is only from the perspective of what we're shared, educated on. Like,
and it just becomes a biased theory that you're just like, oh, okay, cool, because somebody person,
because the understanding that I have doesn't allow for that theory or idea because I don't understand that. And I was like, well, but most of the ideas and theories that we hear, like most people, how many of them truly understand to the fullest understanding, like gravity? Even something as simple as that.
I don't even think we do. We don't understand it at all.
Like, but yet that's a theory that we all follow, claim, believe in, all of that.
Yeah.
But that's only because of the understanding that we've been told and taught and that. But if there was something else outside of our comprehensive knowledge that, is shared, it's like we don't even know what was destroyed in the libraries of Alexandria.
Well,
could there have been
could we have been way more? I think that those ancient civilizations are way more advanced than we are, and it's not because they built it out of stone.
It was our discussion about Egypt and about the pyramids, and you're like, oh, I think it could be this, and I was like, well, but that's great, but that's only our understanding of it. Or they're like, well, it's these hydrogen things down. Maybe.
No, I'm not saying hydrogen. I'm just saying like a possibility of a nuclear power plant because of energy that created. If you understand how nuclear power works, it's steam.
But that's our understanding of what that is.
And I know, but I'm saying like
they have a different style.
You can go back. They try to say it was natural, but there's a certain type of uranium that can only be man-made. It's not found naturally anywhere on this planet. Yet they have found like ancient, like almost
sections
a room
of
that have that type of uranium inside of it.
In the Egyptian...
No, other places.
Okay.
And so, I mean, and you take into like technology that would have been able to shape stone, all this other stuff. Like, I believe it was more of like where Tesla thought about it, because the pyramids were very fascinating because it was all by threes, the mathematics by threes. And threes was a big thing for him. But it was the understanding that this could have been a power plant and that power plants all over the world could have used it. But sometimes...
Kind of like the Tesla towers, yeah.
But now, I mean, well, you look at the top of the pyramids, they said that the possibility it could have been a golden cap.
But it's missing. Yeah.
And the whole, even the stone is electrical connecting.
The golden cap idea, doesn't that come from like actual stories of something in history?
Yeah.
Or, because I think it was just like, oh, it was removed during this war or something else. But I could have sworn that there was like some...
It wasn't there.
No. But like, I swear there was some thing of like, oh, it used to be in the past. It was like this gold cap. I swear there was some type of...
I think it was just passed down because like each one of the Great Pyramids are different colors, apparently. I thought they were just all brown, right? And then later on you learn about like the Great Pyramid was like a white, like a sandstone white.
Okay.
And it
Interesting.
was just it was smooth on all sides. The capstones came off during a great earthquake, and those capstones, all that rubble over there, built Cairo. They used that stone to build a city.
Entire city.
Because
Wow.
it was when they found it, and you can find, we should find some photos. I'll send you some photos of it. But it's when Napoleon came into Egypt, and the Sphinx was buried up to the shoulder, and the pyramid was halfway buried. So
that'd
it
be
was
nuts.
crazy, right? And what they found over there, but even down there, like they're the big area pyramids you can do, but then they've got like some ruins over here, and there's burn marks on stone, but there's no burn marks everywhere. So they're like, it's like a sear, like a laser. So they think the possibility of theory is that they got hit by some type of coronal mass ejection, really big one, peeled back that magnetosphere, and now we're getting hit with straight solar energy, which could have totally burned. I mean, we get burned outside when it goes up. Like you think about 120-degree weather, and then all of a sudden, everything that's peeling back to keep all that heat from, and it's just like a moment. All it
just
needs is a
imagine it
moment.
being like the magnifying glass
Yeah.
finally focusing and
Weep, boom.
yep.
And like, dude, there's
Directed.
statues that are like cracked in half and burned.
Holy shit.
It's crazy, dude. They've got huge ass quartz pillars, tables, bowls. They don't know what they were used for, but it could have been used for acoustics, levitation, whatever, right? It's only theory for us, but
Yeah.
they were able to make these stone vases out of extremely hard.
Quartz. Yeah.
Oh no, even beyond that. Like they have these vases that are perfectly shaped that they found there. Like nuts. And then there's this like disc thing, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, it was for water." It looks like a fucking propeller. So we don't know what they had. And a lot of the theory is that now is that the pre-dynastic Egyptians did not build Egypt the way it is.
Yeah. I
It
don't
was
know how
much
they would
older.
have-
It's the same with the Olmecs in South America up through Mexico. The only thing they left behind were these giant stone heads. They all look different and unique, and they're looking at the sky. So there's all these things like the cave paintings. They show these symbols and stuff. They go, "Oh, these were their gods." Like, I don't think so. I think that's what they were seeing. And I don't believe that our minds on storytelling at that time was as important as fucking living.
Yeah.
Right? The story was like, "Dude, you see that? I almost got killed by that wolf. Good thing
know.
we killed him."
Or like, holy shit. Look, the sky turned blood red and these weird ass symbols appeared.
Yep.
Like, you think we should write this down? Maybe.
Draw it. I don't know
Was-
what else to
was a
do.
beautiful, like,
Yeah, dude.
maneuver.
But it's just like, did you like that? I didn't want to hit the microphone because I don't
funny.
have my headphone on. But
Made me laugh.
yeah, dude, I just thought, okay. So anyway, I'm going to go a little bit into this whole thing. So like in the first 30 minutes of the impact of the CME, transformers explode. Entire swaths of US, Canada, and Europe go dark. High frequency currents. Throats dry.
It's been a lot of balls.
Yeah. It will make you cough later on. But dude,
Yeah,
you can smoke
after,
a lot
like,
of bowls out of it.
5-6 bowls.
That's mine on the way home. I was like, data centers, banks, telecom towers fail. Internet gone. Cell service sporadic at best. Electric cars stall. Gas pumps cease. Hospitals switch up to backup power. Those with solar and battery survive longer.
Yeah, but they'd have to have battery, not just solar.
And the
So it'd
thing
have to
is,
be
it's
like-
even the lithium ion that they have right now, it wouldn't last very long.
90% of the homes who have solar don't have battery backups.
No.
It's just solar tied into the into the
You know what
system.
they are? This is why I don't like solar. They're a bunch of solar-powered calculators. It's only as good as long as you got a direct sunlight.
Yep.
And you have to have, it'll be in Arizona. Clouds still go over that place, motherfucker. They don't always rain.
No, you don't always have power.
So day 1 to 3 after everything is hit, cascading collapse. Water systems fail. No electricity means no pumping. Water scarcity begins within 24 hours. Grocery stores are looted. No ATMs, no EBT, no digital wallets. That's what it said. I was like, dude. People still trust the government, but cracks show. FEMA is overwhelmed. Week 1 to 2, the fracturing. Cities burn from uncontrolled fires. communication goes analog. Ham radio becomes king. And we had talked about that.
Yeah.
By
By my ham, I have mine.
Well, you think about like even that, remember that old alien movie Independence Day?
Yeah.
What united everybody? Ham radios.
Yeah. Well, it's because it will work when everything goes down.
That'll work.
That's it.
And it's a good thing to be able to have. So I thought about that. False rumors spread like wildfire. Some claim that it's an alien invasion. Others blame the elites.
Well, because there will be no technology, no media, no shareable anything.
Dude, can you imagine the society would go through withdrawals on not getting their dopamine?
100%. And you know how depressed and anxious and fucking weird?
Dude, there'd be mass suicides.
On top of everything else.
Yeah.
You know, food, like it would get chaos.
Yeah, that's why I was like, if shit hits, I'm going to the mountains. Like, I'm getting far away from fucking cities. As soon as that happens, I'm just walking. Everybody else is going to be like, come stay with us. Like, people will stay in shelter.
Oh, yeah.
They will think, like, help is coming.
Oh, from who?
As soon as that goes off, if everything shuts off and immediately doesn't turn back on in some places and you can't access your phone, pack your shit, fucking walk somewhere far away from the city because it's going to get bad. And then it said communities go analog, false rumors, psychological strain mounts without screens, meds, or routine. Mass anxiety and hallucinations rise.
I didn't think about meds. Meds go down.
Shamans, spiritualists, and visionaries report contact. Some communities believe the auroras are sentient. Others believe it's Judgment Day.
Yeah, there would be a lot of very religious.
Oh,
it's the end of the world. Everyone's gonna die. Like all of this, and lots of people.
But in those times, I would think that would be almost better for those who are just almost accepting their fate, because the probability of us living through this is pretty low. 1 through 3 factions rise. So that's how quick it's anticipating that within 1 to 3 months after this hits, there's going to be tech prepper alliances using stored solar/battery tech, neo-tribalism, a rural and religious enclaves, and warlords, failed metro areas like Los Angeles, Chicago, parts of South America, and Southeast Asia. Global temperatures will fluctuate. In year 1 to 3, it's mutation or mastery. Cognitive and spiritual anomalies rise. So it's just like hypothetical. I'm like, give me some hypotheticals of what will happen. And then children born during or after the event are monitored, and some say they're in tune. Power returns slowly in isolated, hyper-resilient zones, Scandinavia, parts of Canada, underground bunkers. Fossil fuels don't come back online. Zero-point energy becomes the alternative tech that people go towards. Religious revival, psychological resets, and quantum spiritualism emerge. Some believe the veil to other dimensions ripped permanently. And by year 10, there's 3 different factions of civilization. The signalists, who believe that the solar event was communication. The grounders, tech-adverse survivalists rooted in earth reverence. And then the Arcanet, underground digital networks rebuilt on quantum processors and solar sanctuaries.
It's wild.
That'd be crazy, but the thing is, we don't know.
No, we have no idea.
Oh, sorry.
It's like Fallout, watching Fallout.
Oh, yeah.
Playing that game. It's hilarious.
But that's the thing, like, if this happens, and the problem with it is, like, you got guys like Ben Davison from Suspicious Observers. He's very intelligent. He knows a lot about what he's talking about, but it's a lot of doom and gloom. And I understand I want to be able to survive, but I also want to live my life. I see it as religious zealots who are obsessed with Judgment Day, obsessed with going to the hereafter, and not living your life because it's your life to live. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to live it, even though I hypothesize on this stuff and I think about it, and some of it's fucking scary. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but I'm pretty at peace. Not because of where I think I may be going, because I've lived my life. And I've shifted my beliefs towards more of just kindness and compassion and loving other people, even though there's a lot of me, old me, that's still there. But I think differently now. And because of that, my day-to-day interactions are brighter. They're happier. When things are bad, I feel them right away. but I bounce back even faster. So it's just thinking that now I'm like, yeah, if it ended tomorrow, what am I going to do? Like, you can fucking do anything. You're dead.
No. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. And all I think about is like that idea of what if those CMEs, because they do affect us as humans. That's one thing to really learn about, is that it'll affect you. Like when they happened, I was like very observant about my blood sugars,
sleep, energy. Like there's all sorts of stuff with how you feel. Even.
Yeah. People with strong psychosis feel really off. Heart attacks are higher during those times. But we don't understand really what is hitting us.
Yeah, the full effect. Of
like
what
we gave it names and ideas and theories, but we really have no idea what this is. And I like what Neil deGrasse Tyson's like, it's stardust. All of us are made from stardust. Like, yeah, totally. I like that. We were all
everything
a part of everything. Yeah.
It is all, we are all made from the same shit.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And
just
we
like
go back to the
chickens
same
and
shit when we die.
pencils and that, cannabis
mug.
and coffee, this mug, everything's made.
Yeah.
And so it gives me solace because I'm just like, yeah, even if that happened, of course I want to help other people survive. And if I can survive through it, great. I wouldn't look at it going, well, fuck my life. There goes my PlayStation.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even care about that thing.
I mean, life would be so different. That would never even.
But you think about it like that's where I'd see a great reset coming, because it would wipe out the population of the planet.
Oh, yeah.
There'd be dense areas, and it would slowly return. They said that there was a video, and I'll have to find it and send it to you, but this guy was saying like, yeah, humans need about 6,000 years to achieve like advanced civilization. So the theory was for him, he's like, how many times could that have happened?
Yeah.
And more people are starting to ponder that. How many times has this happened? Walking through like a supermarket, having electricity, vehicles that we use. We only know what we know.
Communication in our pocket.
Yeah.
Or like,
What if... I truly believe that they were more advanced than us based upon the stories that you would hear about what was told about these places. Like when Herodotus went to Egypt. I mean, when Herodotus went to Egypt, it was the way that Egypt is now. It wasn't like, oh... They only had stories talking about 9,000 years ago. It was wiped out. And so it's like, wow, from that time.
Yeah.
So and they're only story, but the thing that I always go again, I'm like, why would they write something fictitious just to write it? I don't know. I think there's always a truth in there, because it's like comedy. It's not all... It's not all just jokes.
There's
a lot of truth in that.
They're like, oh, yeah, that's why they're saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just their real life.
Like that one I said, like if guns kill this many people and if cars kill this many people, dude, anyway, I'll finish that one. Dude, this was a fun discussion and going over. We've got a bunch of other different topics, but...
Yeah. Comment below. What have been your high thoughts? What have you rabbit hole down into? Have you gone on, like... chats with your chat and just gotten really high and come
chatty.
up with all sort of ideas? So
yeah, and you know what, send us some ideas, like have us dig into something. I think it would be really cool to go into some of these ideas, so send them our way. And as always, guys,
catch you next week.
Take care.